Right, let's get into our quick picks. Our GAA weekend ahead is... Okay, it's not a bumper weekend of GAA. Let's be straight up here. It is a weekend where, according to our predictions, things are pretty predictable. Will O'Callaghan, Tommy Rooney, good morning.
Morning, lads.
Let's have a look at what's first up here. I think we're going to the football first. Oh, sorry, the predictions table. Sorry. Sorry. How could I?
Let's get it right. Let's get it right.
It's a knockout championship.
Let's go. Let's go from bottom to top. I tipped Laois last weekend, which was one of the worst decisions I've ever made. All three of you tipped Westmeath. At half time, I was listening to it on the radio. I was listening to the radio. I was like, "This is going to work out nicely for me." Laois are getting it done. And then they lost by 16 points.
Was there like 16 points?
So I got that one badly wrong.
And you didn't reflect Westmeath's dominance, by the way, in the overall picture in your power rankings on Monday as well, which is an ongoing gripe of mine.
That's not true. But I've come back to Tommy Rooney's level. We're on 17 correct, 4 incorrect so far. If we put the graphic up for just one moment, I think Will is 1 ahead of us. He's on 18 and 3. And top of the table, Adrian Barry, 20 and 1. Those damn Galway hurlers letting you down, Adrian. That's the only error, the only foot you've put wrong so far this summer.
Isn't that outrageous? Like a game that is one of the shocks of the summer so far. But
especially if you didn't predict it.
I don't want to get too carried away on. It's early days in the championship just yet. There's a lot of quality in the field. And there's Tommy as well. So long road to go.
What we're going to do from next week on is we're going to have to bring in margins of victory. A, because we can't have Adrian winning this thing and we need to get more points on the table. And B, let's have a look at where we're predicting the scores to go this week, or the results to go this week. So we've got our Munster and Connacht fixtures up on screen at the moment. For any of the radio listeners, we've got Cork against Limerick. Cork are being tipped by all 4 of us. We've got Tip against Kerry. Kerry is being tipped by all 4 of us. We've got Leitrim against Mayo. Mayo being tipped by all 4 of us. I ask
here.
Which you struggle here, Tommy. I was going to ask which one are you most nervous about, but it's pretty obvious. I think the potential for Limerick to do something out of those 3 underdogs is probably the greatest.
Yeah, genuinely think there could be something going on here. You know how I feel about Cork.
You hate them. You hate Cork.
I'd love to hate them again, but they're just not worth hating.
Oh, the ultimate insult.
That is very insulting. Why are you so harsh, Tommy, this morning at 8:25?
I suppose I like that Limerick team. Like what they're doing. They were unlucky last year against Tipperary. And I just don't buy Cork at the minute. You've been talking them up for weeks. Just don't buy it.
Okay, go on.
No, that's it. I just think something could happen here.
Why are you tipping them against Limerick? You've had a pretty good year so far.
Because I'm bottom of the table. I played it safe for the first time in my life on the GAA quick picks.
Right.
Tommy's calls are outrageous. You can't actually trust that he believes he's just doing it to be contrarian and to try and get an edge over everybody else. But there's the point on is there's a serious case for Limerick here that, like, whatever about Cork's vulnerabilities, like obviously having run Tip close last year, that Conor Sweeney point that brought it level head on, they could have been in, was that to go into a Munster final after that?
Yeah.
Beat Tip in the league during the year, didn't they? So I think that, like, Limerick, actually a lot of the games that some of them are just quite clearly going to go one direction. I think of a lot of the games, I think that one is actually would have the, if you could call it a shock, a surprise for it.
Yeah, I agree. Will, any concern over your football picks so far?
Yeah, I think, again, Limerick and Tip is probably the one that we've looked at so far that has the capacity for a shock, really. I saw Limerick a couple of times when Offaly beat them in the league, and their semi-final loss against Derry when they played pretty well, but Derry then pulled away late on in that semi-final. Cork, I think, though, have been just operating at a higher level. We're pretty decent in Division 2 this year. Beat Westmeath when they needed to dig in and put in a performance in that relegation playoff final. Showed that they got plenty of scores in the team too. So as much as Limerick should give them a good run, I'd be shocked if Cork do slip up this weekend. And look, it's a chance for Cork to try and get back into a Munster final and maybe right some of the wrongs that they would have felt about last year, like having knocked out Kerry and then to not go on and convert that into silverware. So that's the one I'd be surprised if there was a big result in it. I mean, for Tipperary, I don't think Lightning's going to strike twice in terms of winning Munster 2 years in a row. They've lost players from last season and were pretty disappointing in Division 3 South of the league, which which would have looked tasty for promotion on the face of it when it was drawn into two different groups. And, Tip now down into Division 4. You would imagine Kerry, having dismantled Clare a couple of weeks ago, should be advancing to the final. And from what we've seen from Mayo so far, you'd be a very brave person. And even if you're going to be as contrary as Tommy Rooney, to try and pick Leitrim to beat Mayo. So I think the football looks fairly straightforward, as bizarrely we get into the last 12 in the country this weekend, despite the fact it feels like the football championship's only just after starting.
Are we into the last? We are, because there's no quarterfinals. Genie, Mac. Then, and I guess it doesn't necessarily reflect overly well that these are all so predictable. Let's bring up the second slide of our football predictions. Draft number 1. I say draft number 1. So this sees a full house for Donegal to beat Derry and a full house for Tyrone to beat Cavan. However, I got an email at 3 minutes past midnight last night where Tommy Rooney in the subject line was, "I think I'm going to change to Cavan." So there you have it, Tommy. You've jumped ship. You have upset the apple cart. Why have you bottled your Tyrone pick?
I don't know if I've bottled my Tyrone pick. I've been struggling with this game for the last 2 weeks. I just really expect a reaction from Cavan. I'm about 20 yards from Cavan at the minute. I'm just on the border, and I know what they're like. They're proud people. They've been relegated 3 years now in a row. So I don't think that's going to affect them too badly. I know they're down in Division 4. But you look at what they did last year. They were down against Monaghan. They were down and out. They came back and bet them. They got by against Antrim after a poor first half. They were down and out against County Down, and they came back and they bet them. And they had no chance against Donegal. There was no hope. Donegal were taking on Dublin, And Cavan beat them.
But it was an outlier, Tommy, a total outlier.
What's the outlier?
You're making the case that they've been did you say they've been relegated 3 years running?
3 years running in the league.
And
you
somehow use that as a point to make a case for them?
No, what I'm saying is that Mickey Graham is the king of championship shocks. That's what he is.
Yeah. They lost to Derry and Fermanagh in the league, Tommy.
Doesn't matter. It's the league.
In fairness, I think Tommy's point is that they got relegated to Division 3 last year and they still managed to win the Ulster Championship. So why not get relegated again and go far into the Championship again?
Point.
It's designed.
Last point. At 11:59 last night, the Tyrone team was released.
Yeah.
Colin McShane is back in the matchday panel.
Yeah.
But there's no Conor McKenna.
Yeah, that's a big
Not
loss.
even on the panel.
Big
Not
loss.
even in the squad.
But Tyrone without McKenna should be able to beat Cavan. If Tyrone have any designs on being Tyrone, on at least having a passable season, they should be able to beat half of that province, regardless of whether or not this is a transitional phase for Tyrone. They did. I know their league ended badly, but they still managed to not get relegated or not be in the bottom half of a really tough division in Division 1, whereas Cavan got relegated into Division 4. And I know that there was a proximity between league and championship last year as well, but it was only some of the league. I think this year the league form is more important than ever, because all of the league is right before the championship.
Same amount of games, though.
There was only 2 league games last year before.
What was this year? 3?
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4 in four, and then 5 if you're Offaly and Derry. So I don't know. I think that's a little bit more. I see your point, but I think it's a little bit more significant for Cavan this year. I also think if you look at the Tyrone Cavan game 2 years ago, we all expected Cavan to put up a real fight against Tyrone that day, and it just didn't materialise whatsoever. And Cavan had a good championship that year as well. They got relegated and they beat Monaghan, didn't they, first day out in the Ulster Championship that year, and then there was that qualifier against Tyrone and they got slaughtered when we thought that was actually going to be a real contest. So I don't think the form line against Tyrone bodes well. I don't think the form line in their recent games bodes well. And I think that we are backing, or you're backing Cavan based on what they did last year. And that might have scratched an itch as well, Tommy.
Not necessarily. Look, it's not like what I was saying about Cork earlier. I've got nothing against the people of Tyrone. But
just to clarify,
it's okay. I don't think they're taking it personally.
I just think Dooher and Logan, they're only in the door. It's a tough time for a manager who hasn't, had a squad or been training with them full time. Mickey Graham, as I mentioned earlier on, is brilliant when it comes to championship football. Getting a team ready, getting a team right, upsetting the apple cart. I'm back in Cavan again.
Will, give us margins of victory here for Donegal and Tyrone.
The Donegal Derry game might be reasonably tight. Like Derry were so impressive in that Division 3 final a few weeks ago, albeit I think Offaly down tools in the second half of the game. But I think Donegal probably by 2 or 3 points, but I'd fancy Tyrone to beat Cavan by minimum of 5, to be honest. Like, I was talking to Peter Canavan last Friday week, and he reckons the transition in management team hasn't really affected Tyrone. He said the only concern in the 4 league games that he saw at that point was the defeat against Kerry. He said outside of that, Tyrone had played quite well. And to Tommy's point about the team that's been named, can you put stock in any team that's named on a Thursday midnight ahead of a weekend? Like, have we had a single team named this year that actually lined out the way it was named?
You can't add anyone to your matchday panel.
If McKenna's out of the squad, I would believe that. But I'd agree. McShane could start, for example.
Yeah, exactly. If he's fit enough to be in the squad, there's every chance he's in there. That would change your thinking, Tommy, if McShane starts.
No.
Surely.
It wouldn't. No, not yet. Not at the minute. Sure, wow. but sure, you can't, lads. Whatever about training, you can't replicate championship football. Like,
I know, but it's not like he's some schlep coming in, Tommy. He's one of the best footballers in the country.
Yeah, but it doesn't change my thinking, because my thinking isn't based on the fact that McKenna is out. That didn't really change me. Like, it was a factor. But, like, I've been flip-flopping between Cavan and Tyrone all week. And then...
Tommy, what happened there? You were asleep 2 hours last night, and you were dreaming about the game, and you woke up. You know that thing where you wake up in the middle of the night, and you're having a creative thought about something, and you want to write it down, and you wake up the next morning. It's a Jerry Seinfeld sketch. You wake up the next morning, and the thing makes no sense. That's obviously what happened to you. You woke up this morning and went, I really wish I hadn't done that, but I'm in too deep.
Cavan football makes no sense. Cavan football makes no sense.
Everything you're saying points to Tyrone winning.
They're the giants. They're the giants of Ulster football. They were beaten by Wicklow to be relegated to Division 4. They're reigning Ulster champions. Nothing about Cavan football makes sense.
No,
it's
true.
A sting in the tail this weekend.
I do.
Let's not talk about Wicklow, please.
I'm not saying to put money on it. I'm not saying to put money on it off the back of anything I'm saying. I'm just saying I believe there can be a sting in the tail.
I do like that whets the appetite nicely, actually, for Derry Donegal. Will's prediction that it could be 2 or 3 points. That's definitely the football game of the weekend. We'll see now if league does translate to championship, because Derry have been so impressive. Just one quick look at the one hurling fixture this weekend. It is Antrim against Laois. We are all backing Antrim in this. Will, I might throw this to you. You're backing against Laois 2 weeks in a row, obviously in different codes. Why is this going to go Antrim's way?
Well, look, you'd hope that the Laois hurlers score more than 2 points in the second half, like we saw from the footballers last week. But look, again, form indicates that Antrim are going to win. Antrim won the league meeting between the sides up in Corrigan Park. Antrim lost out to Dublin, but we saw that Dublin played reasonably well against Galway, even though Galway were horrific last weekend. Like, there's nothing to indicate from Laois. They've lost all of their games so far this year. They're still at this stage on the fly trying to work out vital positions on their team, including their half-back line, midfield and half-forward line. It would take a huge effort at Parnell Park if Laois are going to stay up. They're probably going to face off 2 relegation playoffs where they're going to be the underdogs. They've got the league relegation playoff bizarrely coming up on All-Ireland semi-final weekend against Westmeath. They'll be worried by Westmeath's form in the Joe McDonagh Cup. I would be surprised if Laois aren't operating at Division 2 hurling and in the Joe McDonagh for next season. And unless Antrim hurl within themselves, I think the Saffrons beat Laois this weekend. I think this is a pretty easy call. It would be a big upset now if Laois were to win based on the form of both teams.
Yeah, and I don't think I can be caught on the table, as Will rightly pointed out last week. Come on, Will. Again next week, so look forward to retaining my crown again for at least one more week.
And I'm looking forward to Offaly beating Westmeath's under-20s and ending Adrian's run in that competition next Thursday night as well.
Go on, Tommy, you had something, pearls of wisdom there. What were you?
No, I was going to say something. I'm not going to say it.
Go on, say it.
Meath for Sam.
Well, I just haven't heard Adrian give too strong a take on Anthony. He's just kind of picking.
Nah, that's too strong.
Just rolling with the favourites.
See, Tommy, the mistake that you make is you draw up these predictions. You should have stuck with your initial prediction. You draw up these predictions based on the fact that you think everybody else is going to go the other way. So you come up with this outrageous. And the other point about your picks is this, right? That you, out of the 10 crazy picks that you make, one of them comes off, and at that point you're like, I am the guru of this. I mean, look, I got all that other stuff wrong, but I mean, I managed to pick somehow Cavan to pick Tyrone, which is not happening.
All right, let's have a listen to what Paddy and Andy think.
Right. Good man. People who talk some sense. Thanks, lads. We'll catch up with you again next week for more of that good stuff. It's 8:37. It's Friday morning. Lots of comments coming into us. We'll bring you some of those your way in just a little bit. Colm Buig is going to join us next to talk Wimbledon and specifically the men's final from 2001 in a special classic game club that's coming your way shortly. First of all, take a look at this, as Tommy said. Paddy Andrews, Andy Moran, episode 9 of the brilliant The Football Pod, and they're expecting a shock in Ulster this weekend.
Where both Cavan and Derry have a huge chance, I think, right? So if we look at Antrim last week with Enda McGinley, very new to the scene in terms of management, and it does take a while. If you look at Wexford, Shane Roach, very new to the scene, it takes a while. Both did exceptionally well. But if you look at Derry with Rory Gallagher, and you look at Cavan with Mickey Graham, it definitely gives them a chance. Like Rory Gallagher isn't going in there with, he knows Donegal inside out. Like if there's going to be a shock in this championship, lads, it has to be it. Like Rory Gallagher knows them inside out. Your absolute leader and superstar is more than likely out. Your team is in the form of their life, like that they haven't got. The Derry people believe in them, and Donegal are 100% worried about this game. Like the only team you didn't want out of the underdogs in Ulster is Derry. So if there's going to be a shock, this is going to be it. Do I think they have enough? I think Donegal will have too much scoring power for them. I genuinely think that's going to be the only issue. I think Derry will score plenty, but I just think Donegal will score too much. I genuinely think that's going to be the problem.
I think on it, you're right. The Rory Gallagher influence, he knows that Donegal team from working with Jim McGuinness. He'll have a plan for Ryan McHugh. He'll have a plan for Paddy McBrearty. We've seen Donegal have very kind of set patterns of play up front. It can at times be predictable. Now it's a different thing knowing what's going to happen and being able to stop it. But Rory Gallagher's going to have plans for that. Chrissy McKaig is going to be manning that full back line, and he's trying to get his hands on Paddy McBrearty. If Murphy's missing, and remember the creaks in the Donegal defence that was highlighted even by Down, who've had a pretty poor season. Caleb Mooney, his speed, his athleticism. You're looking at Conor Glass coming through for Derry. They will have a really, really set game plan. They've got huge confidence on how they've performed over the spring. You're right. We're hoping for some sort of upset, something to ignite this championship. I think that the most likely place is going to be this weekend if Cavan or Derry can get over. In saying that, I agree with Andy. I think the quality that Donegal and Tyrone have, if they bring their best stuff, should probably just have too much. But I think if you're going to see an upset, that's where it's going to be at the weekend.